Thank you so much, Sarah. That was very moving. Thank you very much indeed. Wonderful. So could we gather our panel members now, please? So if you'd like to come up, Sara, again, if you'd like to take place on the lovely white seats. No, not at all. We'd like to hear more. Jan de Jong, please, and Alia, please come and join us. Come and join us on these white seats right here. I'm just going to swap position over here. And then Orest Zub as well. So we've got, and Rowena Hennigan is going to introduce everybody, isn't she? So Rowena, just while everybody's setting up, Rowena is an Irish person who lives in Spain and is location independent. I'm now going to hand the microphone over to Rowena. There you go, Rowena. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that'll be okay. Just getting everyone sat down. So how are we all doing? It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Had the idea to go for a swim in the pool because I don't have a pool in my apartment in Spain. So I'm very excited about the pool in the hotel this morning. So just as well I did that because it set me up with the energy needed to keep going right into the evening. So it's lovely to see you all. Fabulous panel we've got here with us today. So what I'm going to suggest we do is get everyone to do a quick introduction. Oops, I'm getting some direction there. Everyone to do a quick introduction. I'm Rowena. I'm doing a keynote tomorrow morning. I really look forward to seeing all your eyes in the audience then, seeing how they look, whether they're bright and clear or otherwise. I'm really looking forward to wrapping up the keynotes tomorrow. It's been really inspirational today. I have good relationships with some of the people already that have presented, so it's been wonderful to hear them present. So you can find out more about me tomorrow or look up RoRemote.com. And meanwhile, let's focus on the panel and get going. So I'll pass along the mics. So Sarah, if you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sara.
Or pass on to you. We'll be better,
Where are you from?
Tell us a story. Go to Jan.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jan de Jong. Just like Sarah, the Netherlands didn't want me either. I left the Netherlands where I was born and raised a bit more than 15 years ago. Moved to Croatia when I was 22, which makes me 37 today. I'm an entrepreneur. I started several businesses here in Croatia. And one of the things that I did, and that kind of makes me why I'm here today, is I was the initiator of introducing a digital nomad permit here in Croatia. And together with Tanya and Carmela, I'm the co-founder of the Digital Nomad Association in Croatia.
Very cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Lona, Alia. I am originally from Albania, but I left Albania when I was 15 and I went to the US. I've been to over 80 countries, lived in most continents, learned about 7 languages. I started a business maybe 7 years ago out of Silicon Valley, raised $2 million, got 60,000 customers. And now I work for Safety Wing, which is building a country on the internet. And we're super interested in working with different governments so we can make this pass where digital nomads can live everywhere that they want without having to apply for a visa. So whoever is here from a different country, I'd love to talk to you. Yeah, anyway, that's me. Hi.
I've got another one to share. I am from Ukraine, so we can start talking straight away after this.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm from Ukraine. My name is Orest. I'm living digital nomad life for like over a decade so far. Actually, like in 2015, when this kind of started to become mainstream, I read the term digital nomad and then like, oh, like that's what I'm doing for the last 5 years. So far. Yes, I visited over 120 countries around the world. Yes, and there are a few did 100 countries so far too. Yeah. And I've got like a business in Ukraine and also the e-residency company in Estonia. When the war in Ukraine started, like I just arrived 4 days before the war, actually, before the Russian invasion, just to participate from all of my travels. And now I'm here for a short trip, spreading the message. Yes. And yeah.
Are you going back?
Yes. Yeah. And like in next week, I'm coming back. Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's such a diverse panel, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to take back this fluffy one. I don't know why this one has fluff and the other one doesn't. But anyways, I like the fluffy one. Such a diverse panel. Right. So we're going to get a bit serious for a minute. Okay. We're going to get a bit serious for a minute. It's the topic. There's 3 topics and they're huge topics. So I'm going to try and really focus in on some key questions with the panelists. We've got business growth, boundaries and burnout. Okay, all the bees, all the bees. Business growth, I want to start with. And what I wondered if anyone on the panel had any lessons learned they'd like to share, because often business growth or intense growth in any type of business, individual or otherwise, comes at the expense of an individual's well-being. Okay, and how they're doing, how they're feeling in all elements of health and well-being. So I wonder if anyone would like to share any lessons they've learned about considering that business growth and not taking effect on either the individual or the team. So who'd like to start on that? Over to you.
That's a great question. Living in San Francisco for maybe over 5 years, between New York and San Francisco for a decade, I saw that many startups, had this culture of burnout, and I was part of it. I, raised lots of money from VCs, and they wanted me to work 12 to 14-hour days, so I was doing that, and it definitely wasn't living the dream. So, VCs just want you to work to death so that they can make a lot of money and they can have an exit. But that just didn't work for me. And it's not working for a lot of people these days either. So now that the tables have turned, where employees are so centric versus employers, it's more about the well-being of the employees. And now that I'm in a company where employees are so valued, it's a huge shift to where it was in Silicon Valley, where it wasn't like that at all. So it's really nice to have calm leadership versus anxious leadership. And Silicon Valley and VC culture is very anxious leadership. It's about like growth, 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 push, 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 and no one cares about you if you get cancer or whatever it is. So it's really nice to be in this culture right now. And I think everybody is so lucky to live in this day and age where we can choose our employer and get someone that respects you and treats you with respect and gives you wellness.
Obviously lots of personal experience there on that, and I wonder, coming from Silicon Valley as well, from the intense, now that you've got that difference, you really notice it, you really value it. Has anyone else got anything to add, any lesson they've learned about how to maintain that growth, because it's a fine balance with keeping an individual or their team's well-being? Orest, go ahead.
I've got this one.
Yeah.
One of the best business decisions in my career was like maybe 4 years ago, when I decided to switch from chasing the clients to change the model towards switching into recurring revenue model. So the way when you don't think about your next client, about your next sale, without you're not pushed to continue running forward all the way, gives you this clarity what to do next, and switching to recurring model just makes you release, because selling to existing client multiple times is much easier than looking for new clients, and this is the scalable moment for many businesses. So if any of you can see the opportunity in what you're doing, apply the recurring revenue model, this will be definitely the point to grow.
Fantastic piece of advice. And one of the things I've been doing with my business over the last 2 years is looking at passive income, because with such an explosion for me in my business, there was a lot of that chasing recurring clients, doing training, doing virtual events, which again are so synchronous, not asynchronous as well. If you think of the use of that word, we're trying to look for things that aren't so heavy on us, especially if we're solopreneurs or freelancers in the digital nomad or digital remote work model. Yeah, and anything to add? Or
Sure. I'd say two things. One is, Expat Croatia is in a moment of intense growth right now, in this moment. It's been a slow burn for about 9 years, and now it's just poof. So it's hard to balance that. It's hard to balance, like, oh my gosh, we got to do all these things right now in this moment, and realize that if you do that, you'll die. So can't have that. So what I've been trying to do is really focus on structure. If I have that structure, then it keeps me organized so that I don't go off the rails into destructive habits or be unhealthy, because if I'm going to work like an animal, like, I want to make sure that I'm still exercising, I'm still eating right, I'm still journaling in the morning, I still have that routine that I do every day in the morning, every day at night. And then whatever happens in the middle, at least I feel very good that I'm continuing that. And it helps keep my mind clear. I think the other thing that I've kind of realized in the last few months is, as humans, especially as freelancers or people that are entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to undervalue ourselves. We don't charge enough. So that's something that I'm, came to the realization with in the last 6 months, is really because what we're doing right now is there's not many people doing what we do in Croatia. So there's not really a model that we can look after. We're really kind of coming up from scratch and figuring it out. And so seeing what we're charging and realize, okay, we should be charging more and getting better clients that have bigger budgets rather than trying to get more clients at a smaller rate, because our time is worth this much. We have put in enough investment where we deserve to be paid what we are valued at or should be valued at. So trying to work less, make more money.
Sterling advice. Sterling advice. You can really, it's real advice as well for anyone who's building a business. Jan, anything to add?
Yeah, so when I moved to Split, most people around me, they would say that this is a city where everybody is taking it easy. They always say Polako in Split, like live an easy kind of life. But as a matter of fact, I was working like 80-hour weeks during pretty much the first 9 years that I started my business. I was in the office in the morning at 8. I would leave around 10:30, 11 in the evening, and I would do that 6 days a week. And I did that every single week of the year for pretty much 9 years straight. And I really believed that I had to do that in order to grow my business, to be working harder than my competitors. During that time, I built a company up to more than 400 people, which I then had an opportunity to sell in 2015. And after my exit from that business, I actually decided that I wanted to do it completely different in the future. I never really wanted to work that hard anymore. I'm a father of 4 children. I didn't want to live a life where I would just be in the office away from my family. I really wanted to live a more balanced life. And I mean, for that reason, I think that we will come back to that subject later as well. But one of the things that we have introduced in Croatia, and this is kind of like from the lessons learned, is we are one of the first companies in the country that introduced a 4-day work week. And we are working 100% remotely from home. So yeah, these are the lessons learned from the past. And this is how we actually want to do things differently, therefore, from now on.
Fantastic, and fantastic to see you driving that change. It's also really interesting as an established remote work and specialist in the whole lot to listen to all of this coming off of COVID, because about 3 months into COVID, I was on a call with lots of other specialists and remote work experts around the world. And one of them said, I've been so busy and tense during COVID, I've forgotten why I remote work. I've forgotten the values of travel, the values of, they couldn't travel obviously, but I've forgotten that it gives me that work-life balance if I let it. So I think there's a really interesting message there, because I believe everyone that's tuned in and everyone's that's here, we've got that in common. So why let the work take over our life? Where's the life-work integration then? So I think that's also one of the things that, comes through on that. So related to that then, the next topic in terms of boundaries. So I've changed around the order a little bit, because for me, boundaries are really, really important. Limits, edges, where you can be pushed to. So there's so much talk about knowing where your boundary is. So I wonder if any of the panel would have any advice on learning about their boundaries, learning about their limits. And we've hinted at it a little bit that they'd like to share. So in terms of where work and life starts and ends, or where you want them to integrate, or you mentioned routine, Sarah, which is a really good, example. What's the one thing that's a non-negotiable every day to keep you in balance? Is there one thing? So would anyone have anything to add on that? You again, Sarah?
The thing that keeps me in balance, every Saturday I have a ritual. It is non-negotiable. It is my Sara time. I go to my coffee shop right by my house. I have the same pastry from my local bakery, and I sit and I journal and I have my coffee, and everyone has to leave me alone. And no matter what happens during the week, I do that thing. And that is what keeps me grounded. And I can sit there. If I didn't have time to write during the week, at least I can take that moment to sit and think about everything that happened that week and unpack it and think about where I want to go next without all of the clutter that happens during the week.
Wonderful. Any more examples of that? Sure.
I think for me, like Jan, I also have 2 kids and a husband that tells me that if I don't shut down the computer, I won't have a husband anymore. So no, he's joking, but sometimes not. Exactly. Well, I guess I don't know how many of you have kids here, but once you have kids, you have to obviously spend some quality time with them. And remote work is amazing because it allows me to do that. The other cool thing is that we travel so much. We're nonstop. 4 of us traveling the world. We're in Mexico for 2 months just before this. Now we'll be in Europe for the summer, and it's really cool to be in different settings and then just go pick up your kids from whatever school they're attending, whether it's Spanish or another country, and then have that hard boundary there for us. So that's pretty easy, I guess, for me. I don't get a lot of Lona time. I wish I had a Saturday where I could sit at my favorite bakery and journal, but maybe one day.
I'm pulling for you.
Thank you.
These days I'm already happy if they let me sleep until 7.
No kids.
Seven is good.
I believe everything is relative and there is no a single right thing to do. Like the typical evolution of digital nomad looks more or less the following. Like first you just like do anything just to go remote. You start traveling, usually starting from Southeast Asia. You live in the hammocks. You do all these pictures on the beach with the computer, but actually nobody works like this. Yeah, just with the picture, you know. Yeah. Then like once you start to make a buck online, you start to think like, okay, how can I make it more efficient? How can I grow it? And you start living like in a better accommodation. Then your like monetary things go up again, and eventually many nomads they don't like travel constantly anymore. They try to look for bases, and Dubrovnik is a great base for that. And some people settle down eventually. Yes, so there are different stages, different situations in life, and different things work different for other people. So me personally, I cannot work from a hammock anymore. Like it's impossible. However, like I was super productive doing that like 10 years ago. Like around 5 years ago, I was fine constantly traveling, working from the hotels, but never did from the coffee shops because too loud for me. Yeah. And eventually I came up to the solution having like a one single base in my native city, doing some super productive work, renting a separate office where I go, separate myself from the entire world, do a work for the months, and then for 3 weeks I travel in jungles of West Africa without a single like checking email. And that worked fine as well. Yes. So eventually, if we're talking about the freedom of digital nomad, yes, it's not the one to be able to work from anywhere. It's to set up the things how you can be free and not work from that particular place. And I think deep in the heart, every digital nomad who is starting with this ultimate goal to be free geographically and work on the road, eventually looking for the solution how to be able travel without a laptop. Yes, which was the ultimate goal in the very beginning.
I love that. I love that. I'm just going to add to that because I'm maybe slightly more mature in this in the audience that are here, because I was around for the dot boom. I was around back in the late 90s when, you know, a lot of digital technologies were taking off. And for me, I actually really love your analogy there about without the device, because I mean, I drive everyone I know crazy. I go for weekends with nothing, right? And people still, but it's what keeps me sane, because when I'm so on, I do have to be really, really on. And one of the areas I've become fascinated by in the last few years, if this resonates, is the whole digital disconnect, the whole research around that, and the whole community coming with that or coming out of that, and information. So for me, maybe it's because of, you know, almost 30 years in industry, but for me it's really important to look at that without devices and look at that downtime. And I wonder, like what you're saying, as we move through these different transitions, or it's whether it's something also to be aware of that you might need it after a particularly intense time of work or whatever. Jan, did you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, well, as an entrepreneur in business, there's also a few things that I insist on. And that is that I'm totally okay that in the first few years when you're just starting your business, that you work very hard for your business. But after that, after a couple of years, your business needs to start working very hard for you. And the only way for you to do that, actually, where you as an entrepreneur are not becoming a slave to your own company, is to make sure that your company actually doesn't need you. And to really, my first objective in every business that I start is to replace myself. I hire a director when I have 2 employees. Not because I couldn't be the director. I just don't want to be the director. I want to be the owner of the business. And I want a director to run the day-to-day operations so that I can be there as an owner, because I know that as an owner, I can add a lot more value to that business, but I can also start other businesses and be an owner of that. So it's give and take. I give at first to the company, but after that, the company needs to return that to me. And that will enable me to have the lifestyle that I have.
I love it. And isn't that actually sustainable business practice in action and business growth? Because what you're doing is enabling other people to take that and grow
Empowering them.
and empowering
I
them.
always tell them, you rather
Yeah,
ask me for
exactly.
forgiveness than for permission.
Wonderful. And there's another example. By doing that, you can focus on other things, or you can focus on your own well-being and health if that's a priority. So keeping going on that, I thought it would be really interesting to take it from a more team perspective. And I wanted to focus in a little bit with Lona and Jan on one thing that Jan has mentioned, the 4-day work week. So we'll come to that in a minute, because there's some amazing learnings from that. But Lona, with Safety Wing, because you are a fully remote big team, and 80, how many of you are there? 120 keeps growing every time I ask, which is amazing. But I just wonder what you share. You mentioned culture and that really healthy culture, but how you support those boundaries, that well-being, all the things we've spoken about in the Safety Wing culture, because I think that's a really interesting angle to hear about as well.
Oh, sorry.
Definitely. Yeah, so at Safety Wing, we're 120 people. I built a team from 0 to 14 people in just 9 months. So I saw firsthand what it takes to build a great team. And what we do at Safety Wing, we have a head of culture that makes sure that everybody is okay. We have 20 minimum days of vacation, so you have to take them. We also organize 4 kind of like offsites every year. So we were just in Mexico in Tulum. Before that, we were in Slovenia. Next, we're going to Bali. So we invest a lot of money in being in person for 1 week in different countries of the world. And also just, checking in with people, not touching the laptop on the weekends. No one will answer on weekends or after work. We decided not for the 4-day work week, because we said we are completely remote. You can do your work on Monday or Sunday or whenever. So if you finish your work in 4 days, then take Friday off. It's not a problem. So we didn't really need to tell people what to do. But yeah, it's really interesting. And I don't know if you guys read the open letter from employees to Apple yesterday. That was crazy how they're like, hey, you guys hire smart people, and now you're telling them what to do versus them telling you what to do. And you just have to listen to your people. Like, what do they want?
Yeah, and what I really admire, having worked a little bit with Safety Wing, is your plan for your services for companies as well, and how you're taking what you do in action in your company and providing those benefits via your products as well. So if you don't know about Safety Wing, it's really worth a look if you're in that space. So over to Jan to hear a little bit about the 4-day work week as well. Well, just a little bit more about that. Maybe you want to comment on what Lona said as well about supporting workers moving to that model. Any learnings?
Yeah, so when we all started working remotely, one of the things that I wanted to do is I wanted to investigate whether we would be able to do the same amount of work as what we're doing right now, but by actually doing that in 4 days. I got very much inspired by what they were doing actually in Iceland. They did this test actually in the public sector, so not even in the private sector, but in the public sector. And there it showed that their productivity has increased by actually working less hours. And then at one moment, I mean, this is of course something that is great for the employees. During that 1 day off that they get, for which they get full-time paid, they can do whatever they want. They can either invest that time in their self-development, or they could go to the gym or relax or whatever they want. It's really their time. But it's not only for them that I'm doing it. There's also selfish reasons as an employer why I would do that. And one of the reasons, or few of the reasons why I did it, is it enables me to find much better talent. Because if I have job interviews with people and I tell them that they're going to get full-time paid for a 4-day work week, a lot of people are interested in working for such companies. So I get a lot of people to apply for my jobs. The other day we had 1 job opening. I made 1 LinkedIn post about it, and I got 85 applications. And we could really choose who we wanted to hire. We had such great candidates that we ended up hiring 2 people instead of 1. And then on top of that, the people that are working for my company, they're very good. I mean, we train them, we invest a lot of time and effort in them, and they become really good at what they do. And then what happens is that they're being headhunted by unicorns. And unfortunately, I mean, even if I wanted to, but I cannot compete in terms of salary with companies that are either well-funded or unicorns simply. So I had to compete in a different way. And where unicorns can perhaps offer more salaries, they cannot offer more free time to their employees. So I wanted to get them on board in a completely different way. And now, for example, we have one of my colleagues. She became a mother a bit more than a year ago. Before she went on a maternity leave, she was working 5 days a week from the office. And now she came back from maternity leave and she's working 4 days a week from home. And that's a complete different kind of environment. And I think that there's going to be a lot of people in the future that would love to work in such an environment. And those people I want to have on board.
Fantastic. And it gives a more strategic view, doesn't it, as well, of that? Just because I have to ask you, because I worked with a few companies looking at this model. Do all your leaders work the 4-day work week as well? Is it universal?
I'm actually the only one that doesn't.
I thought he would say that. I thought he would say that.
So also our director works 4 days. So Friday is a day off for her. You know, a lot of people ask me, how did you organize it? Because we need to be available 5 days a week for all of our clients. So, you know, they asked me, how should we organize this? I said, well, how would you organize it? So I gave them actually the power to come up with a model that works for them. So we do it in this way that, for example, in January, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we keep that for the whole month. And then in February, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And in that way, we are always rotating. And it also means that by rotating, it happens that every once in a while, every couple of months, you actually have also a week where you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off.
Nice. Nice.
And it was their idea.
Yeah.
And I just said, okay, go
you,
for it.
You empowered them, as
Yeah.
you said, to build that model. So that's super. And it's great to
They
hear that
told me this was the most fair way.
of doing
So
it,
I'm like,
yeah.
okay, if that's what you want, then do it.
people powered, people powered. And Lona, did you want to add anything to that about the
No, I was just going to say that the Great Resignation has really taught us a lot of lessons. And this is really great what Jan is doing, because you can't compete exactly with the unicorns or the Googles. And that's what Safety Wing adds. It's like we give you benefits that travel with you all over the world. So that's an edge that a lot of companies will have. Say, hey, we have really good benefits. Not only Google can give you those, but also we can give you those. Because as you expand as a company, as you go global, you can now have benefits that go with you wherever you go. So
If I may just add on, in addition to that, so it was actually Henry Ford that introduced the 5-day work week more than a century ago. And what we have seen, especially now over the past few years, but technology has actually made us a lot more efficient. And that's another reason what we actually wanted to do is to return some of those efficiency gains to our employees. Before, very practical example, if I wanted to have meetings with potential clients, I would sit in the car, I would drive from Split to Zagreb, then I would be going from one meeting to another, I would have to drive every time. And if I would be fast and furious, I could maybe do 4 or 5 meetings in one day. Right now, I can have 5 meetings in the morning through a Zoom call. And the rest of the day, I could basically be off and have the same work done. So yeah, that's what we did.
But it's very much employee, as someone else said, it's very much employee led. It's generated by the employee rather than the employer. And it's another great model. Orest, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, like in terms of efficiency and decreasing the time to work, I think most of you guys realize that almost nobody can really be efficient 8 hours per day. So what I started practicing recently is hiring people for a part-time basis, which is like gives more freedom or take like an option to do another job. But in that case, I expect the priority on the project that we work together, right? And in that case, I believe within this time frame, people could be much more efficient as opposed to the entire span of 8 hours per day.
Totally.
Managing expat in Croatia and hiring people has been a very eye-opening experience for me. I did manage a team in New York many years ago, but having employees here is the first time it was my business and I was hiring people. And so I've had to figure it out as I've gone along. Now, there's a few things that we try and do, because we invest a lot in our employees. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of information that you have to learn. There's a lot of one-on-one time before someone is able to, fly into their role. So we want to make sure that we take hiring very seriously. So whoever comes on, that they're dedicated to us. That's why we employ everyone and we don't use contractors. Now, one thing that we did recently is, because in Croatia, they mandate 4 weeks paid vacation. We stopped doing that. Like, you take whatever vacation it is that you need. You need time off, you tell us. Now, this is a benefit for me in one way because I don't have to do the paperwork. Croatia has a lot of paperwork. But it means that if someone needs the time off, they can take it. Because if they're not in a place, if they need to, if they're burned out, if they're tired, if they're overworked, if they're tired of talking about citizenship all day, and they need to reset their brain, then they're not going to be productive. They're not going to be good at their job. Or if they need a mental health day, or they're sick, or whatever, take all the time that you need. And so we give them that freedom. Now, something else that we do, we work very closely with 12 different law practices around the country. Because when people come to us, sometimes they need a lawyer. And so we vetted all these Croatian lawyers around the country so that we can send our clients to them so that they can get help. But we work very closely with them because they are part of what we do. Like I said in my speech, we confirm with the government, but we also vet with professionals. So these lawyers help us make sure that what we're saying is accurate. But we consider all of they're our colleagues. They're part of our team. So last year, for the first time, we did a team building event. So it wasn't just our team, it was also all of the lawyers. And they all thought it was super weird because they were like, we don't do team building events in Croatia. Why do we have to do this? But then they loved it. We all went to Plitvice and we were all around the country. And we all descended on the park and did a hike. And it was great because so many of us hadn't actually met each other in person. And we're going to be doing one of those every single year. So this year, we're going to be going to Rijeka. We recently did a Women's Month campaign where we featured a lot of women entrepreneurs around Croatia. And one of them is in near Rijeka. And her business makes the most Vitrograph Marini glass in the entire world, which is pretty extraordinary. So we're going to go there and learn how to make glass. And the entire team is pretty jazzed about it. So we prioritize, even though we're all working remotely, we don't get to see each other in person very often. We try and bring everybody together as much as we can, including our broader network, because it's not just about us. We rely on this broader network of people to be able to do what we do to the best of our ability. And that's really important for us. And the last thing I want to say about that is, I'm not going to go through my whole history right now, but I really try and prioritize mental health. And I understand that we all have our issues. We all have our traumas. We all have things that we've gone through. And I know I have experienced how hard it can be to get through your job in a day when you are just at your absolute rock bottom. And so I make it very clear to everybody, if you ever are in a situation like that, do not hesitate to say, I cannot do this today. And just go ahead and just do what you got to do to take care of yourself. And that's part of the culture that we try and foster.
Fantastic. And I mean, that's that piece of advice there. People, knowing your team's limits, individuals knowing their own limits is a key part of understanding, looking at that whole business growth to boundaries. And then we have, of course, the risk of burnout. Now, I've got a bit of a pet peeve about burnout. The term, because I just think it's been hyped so much, and I know it's an important topic, but I like to put my positive spin on it, right? I like to think positively and think that we need to be more proactive in avoiding burnout, right? Burnout is an occupationally recognized condition. It is really, really serious, but I'm sure many of us in the room have seen signs, have had experiences, have the war wounds, particularly during COVID, coming out of COVID, when there was a tendency to overwork because people were locked down physically and they were stuck in places. So what I wanted to add, so that we can also finish on time, right, is that Sara and I did have a good chat beforehand. Sara has had personal experience of burnout. So if you'd like to reach out or afterwards and go and speak to her about it. But what I'd like you to take is from what everyone has said and shared, the individual little things, the without devices, the 4-day work week, the building the culture where you don't work at the weekends, the really good piece from Orest about, work so then you can take the time off, work hard and then take the time off. Take all these bits of advice so that you have that idea of well-being, that idea of boundaries always front of mind. And one of the things that's come through from this panel, putting my academic hat on for a minute, is very much the self-awareness, right, that comes out. And a lot of the research shows that good remote workers, nomads in tow, have very good self-awareness. And a few people have mentioned that time off, that journaling time, that self-reflection time, maybe working with a coach, working with a peer that you trust. That's how you can notice signs of anything going awry. If you have that space to share or that time, the old journal, it's always with me, right? So that's where you can reflect and you can understand a little bit more about yourself and your limits. So that's the last piece I'd like to leave. But what I want to do is just do a quick background the group. And see if there's anything they'd like to add to the conversation. Orest was saying that he did think that it was interesting about business growth coming out of the situation in the Ukraine, and the fact that many businesses in the Ukraine, I thought it was a really interesting point, weren't remote, didn't have any market outside of the Ukraine, and that's really impacted with the war. So this idea of being more global, being more not impacted by geopolitical issues and situations like the war. So I thought that was good. But would you like to add anything, Orest, Lana, or Lona, or Jan, or Sarah, before we finish up? Because I think we're on the last couple of minutes, are we? Think so? Yes. I am. Okay, 1 minute. We'll just all wave. We'll just all wave. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to the panel. And it's been a pleasure, and hopefully see you all in the morning. Have a lovely evening.
For your speech. It should be on our webinar.